Anime has been around for ages, but do you know what's been around longer? Sports. Sports has been a part of society, life, and anything else you can think of since the Big Bang. We have idolised sports, but players of football, basketball, baseball, and American football are now seen as global superstars and making millions of pounds. Sports tournaments and finals attract a huge global audience. Of course, sports will have its handprint on anime. Multiple titles have been created in both manga and anime medium for decades. We have had all sorts of sports in anime. We have had swimming, cycling, basketball, volleyball, and many more. The question in this video, what is the best sports anime? I haven't watched all sports anime, but I've taken it on myself to watch more before I made this video. So with that in mind, what is the best sports anime? I've kind of cheated here. As of the time recording, my favourite quote-unquote sports anime actually does not have an anime as of yet, but it does have an ongoing manga series, and also it has an anime coming out in 2022. If I'm honest, I feel like it'd be very hard for a studio to mess up on this anime because the manga is so good. The series I'm talking about is Blue Lock. Blue Lock in a nutshell is about finding Japan's top striker by having a facility called Blue Lock that invited a few hundred and up-and-coming strikers in Japan to play against each other, and eventually leaving with one striker left that becomes Japan's top striker. Various sports anime I have watched seem to have very similar vibes to each other. They act more of a hype and adrenaline rush type anime. A lot of the time the team we follow will come up on top and win the tournament, but Blue Lock is set almost as a battle royale type anime. The winners of each round survive and go through, but ultimately only one striker will end up on top. This allows the manga to have a lot more twists and turns, and I might say some of the twists that happen you never see coming. It feels a lot of the time that it's more like a psychological anime rather than sports anime. When I was catching up with it multiple times, I was convinced that I could see where it was going, how it would unfold, and I thought I knew exactly how it panned out. And then bam, the manga just puts in a twist that was out of nowhere. Speaking of a manga, his name is Monoyuki Kenshiro. He has written a handful of manga before, but from my research it looks like none of his previous works have been as lengthy nor successful as Blue Lock. Nor does it seem he has done any previous shonen manga. In fact, him writing a sports manga is pretty much out of nowhere. As well as this, the artwork is done by Yusuke Nomura, who's only done artwork for one other manga, so you can see both of them are pretty unknown. Many other sports anime seem to focus a lot on characters and their development and interaction with each other. I'd say Blue Lock falls short in this field, but I think this was done intentionally. Character development and relationships develop on the pitch rather than in the locker rooms, as a lot of time Blue Lock is focused on the action on the pitch and uses development of characters for them to have their breakthrough moment. That could be to strengthen their play via new technique or to leave opponents in the dust. The consistent bombardments of matches being played do not allow character development to happen outside of matches. This is also how the manga has intentionally written, and the story emphasizes their individualist and their ego. Thus, relationships between players take a backseat. The manga has a perfect balance of action and psychological warfare in every game that is played, and it really sets Blue Lock away from other sports anime. So, does the sport being played affect the anime? I think to a small degree, yes. I feel like the type of sport can make the anime or manga itself be easier to watch or read. However, we have seen plenty of anime that involve sports such as volleyball, ping pong, even cycling, that receive positive reviews and are very popular. Blue Lock is obviously based on football, the most popular sport in the world, with the last World Cup surpassing 3.5 billion viewers, and is the highest viewed sport apart from the Olympics. For me and millions of other people, football has always been a big part of our lives. I've been going to football matches all my life, and the impact of seeing my team win or lose will either make or break my weekend, as sad as that sounds. In a lot of countries, especially where I live in England, there is always a conversation to be had with friends, in a workplace or with family about football. Obviously not everyone's into the sport, but it's always been, since I've been alive, a big part of the culture. Children at a young age are inspired by the players they watch on TV, and a common answer when a child is asked what they want to be when they grow up is normally a footballer. Now, the point I'm trying to make is that football has a huge influence on many people, including me. It played a large part on why I even chose to start Blue Lock. I have only recently watched Haikyuu, mainly for this video, but I could not say I would have been interested in a volleyball anime from the get-go. I haven't read a manga in a while, and I was looking at what was popular and being talked about. I kept thinking, what is Blue Lock? I realised it was a sports manga. Before this, I have not actually even read a sports manga before, so I did wonder how sports would translate to manga. Now looking at Blue Lock, I'll tell you why it's the best sports anime or manga. Like I said before, the story is much more than just regular sports anime. The way that the manga draws you into the idea of Blue Lock in the first place, giving you a sense that no one is safe in Blue Lock. The sense of action that takes place within a game of Blue Lock always gives off a different vibe with each match. This is due to a few things. Mainly that the type of matches or games played are different. Sometimes it would be everyone for themselves, others would be 3 vs 3 or even 11 vs 11. This also shakes up the chemistry with the teams that are created for matches, as Blue Lock has such a large character selection and gives each one of their own personality along with their own unique playing style. The pacing of each match is also different, and some can be a few chapters long, whereas some would last volumes. I think this gives credit to the manga, that he is able to produce such diverse matches, and by doing so he has always kept the audience entertained, and reduces any repetitiveness that you might find in other sports anime or manga. The characters are vastly different and each have the same goal to strive to become the best striker in Blue Lock that will lead them to represent their country. Each character is not only different in personality, but also they come with their own unique skill. In some sports anime, you see that they have powers, but in Blue Lock it highlights it more in being a master of a certain trait, such as speed, dribbling, or being able to read a game. I think it's really helped connect with the readers, especially if they have a prior connection to football, as many football stars share similar traits, and I always see large discussion on social media on which character is more like which player. And everyone seems to have a different player they associate it to. What makes Blue Lock so special is that it turns football inside out. In football you work as a team of 11 players. You obviously may have a couple of star players in that team, and they may stand out, but the idea is normally to work as a team. But in Blue Lock it promotes the players to be selfish, as everyone wants to be a striker. And if you do not know anything about football, a team normally consists of one striker, at maximum 2. So a team of strikers is something that never happens. This creates selfishness in the story of Blue Lock, and that it really is everyone against each other. In other sports anime, I've seen the exact opposite of what they promote. In normal sports anime, they produce the growth of the individual main characters as they come to terms working together. As even mentioned in Blue Lock itself, it is part of Japan's culture and society that makes up this selflessness, and that everyone is cautious of their actions and how it affects others. It got me thinking about types of footballers and their backgrounds. I can see how coming from different regions and backgrounds affects a person's playstyle. For instance, I think overall South Americans make the best strikers, and part of that may come from their backgrounds, as they have a mix of street and football culture, with many players describing their background as not growing up with a lot of money, and it drives them to become a better footballer to provide for their family. Obviously, other backgrounds do not deter players away from becoming world-class strikers, but it is interesting to see what questions Blue Lock raise in both the manga and with real football. And further to this, the background of characters in Blue Lock drive their own selfish desires, and how it drives them to reach a position as the best striker in Blue Lock. This is also very cleverly used in Blue Lock, as it determines their playstyle and their actions. I feel like the more selfish they become, the more inhuman and monster-like they are depicted in the manga. The selfishness that is shown in this manga gives it a lease of life and escapes with generic sports anime. I believe Blue Lock takes itself very seriously and does not have a lot of laid-back scenes if you compare it to another sports anime like Haikyuu. The games themselves that are played are just thought out as much as an episode of Death Note, with every player as a chess piece. You may think at times that certain players are not used, but it's only because later in the match do they play their role. It creates such a dynamic that shapes this manga to always drag itself away from even being a sports anime, and more like a psychological battle, where it's not one thing that's able to predict an outcome on, which is quite surprising, as a lot of sports anime you can tell more times than not what the outcome will most likely be. Would I recommend to read the manga or wait for anime? Well, I guess that is truly down to you, but Blue Lock has become one of my favourite manga, and I'd recommend it to anyone, even if you're not into football. On the other hand, I cannot wait for it to be animated, but the only problem is that there's no release date for it yet. It is only said to be coming out in 2022. Also, we do not know how much of the manga will be adapted, if it will be adapted well, or how long there will be in between seasons, and there's potential to not even get a second season. That about wraps up this video. I hope you've had a decent insight on what Blue Lock is about, and how it changes from regular sports anime. Please do leave a like and subscribe if you've made it this far, it really helps me see how many of you do enjoy the content I create. And I'll catch you guys in the next video.